Anton tell us when we're live, or?
No, he won't. He'll just put it live and surprise us like that, which he does every week.
Oh, surprise! Surprise, surprise! We are live.
Brilliant. Welcome, Lydia. Absolutely delighted to have you here. First episode of the year.
Yeah.
We met in Brighton, apparently, and in Barcelona, and we keep bumping into each other and having long chats. And before we start the conversation about gap analysis, I wanted to show the visuals from 2021, 2020. If we can have that on, there you go. That looks astonishing. I saw that this morning. And I thought, wow. All those people have been on the show over the last year and a half. And I really love the colors. I really love the design. And I think that looks really cool. And 2020, we're off and running. And you, Lydia, have the first spot in the same visual for 2022, which we will push out at the end of the year. So congratulations, maybe, or commiserations. I don't know how you see it.
Depends on the color you choose for my background. I don't look great in blue, but pink and orange, generally fine.
Well, the color is red. You get red, because that's the color we've got. And brilliant, wonderful. I'm glad red's a good color. So welcome everybody to 2022. I'm really excited. We did 57 events in 2021. No, 56 events, 57 guests. It was an astonishing year. We started Kalicube Knowledge Nuggets. We got 137 Kalicube Knowledge Nuggets, which are small clips of 1 to 2 minutes that we get out of each episode. We'll be doing that again this year. And of course, Lydia will have 3 Knowledge Nuggets, all of her own, which we will do and push out on the social media and our website. And before we get into this, once again, more stuff, brand SERPs. I'm going to talk about your brand SERP. I looked you up, as I always do with my guests, to figure out what it is they have on their brand SERP. And you're very well understood. Is your name reasonably unique?
Yeah, there's 3 other people with my name that kind of have a presence in Spain. One is a politician, so I'm really glad that I outrank them. Another person is real estate agent. And the third one is a singer.
Right. Okay.
Well, all right.
Yeah. No. Well, you're actually very well understood by Google. We can see there your site is at the top, so you've got a site which is brilliant. A lot of people don't do that. Your Twitter box is underneath, in showing that you're active on Twitter, but then also Instagram and LinkedIn. So you're obviously a bit of a social-y person. And I found your knowledge panel.
Oh.
Here we go. There you go. It's empty, but it's there. And that's your KGM ID /G/11HCBHCP8R. And it, as you can see on the left-hand side, it does show the correct information with just that reference without knowing your name. It can match your name to that KGM ID. And on the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the mobile result, which allows you to claim the knowledge panel. I don't advise that you do it, because what will then happen is the knowledge panel will disappear. They'll just delete it. So you have a sprout, the tiniest sprout. That feedback where you can see it at the top there is the sprout, which is you existing in Google's brain, but Google hasn't yet. We did this for Anton a few months ago, and I've seen a few of these now, and Google triggers them and they exist, but they have no information in them. Anton, we managed to add all the photos from his website onto it. So if you make your website even clearer than it currently is, Google will start to add photos and information to that. So wonderful. Welcome to the Knowledge Panel Club.
Knowledge
Panel Sprout Club. But
yeah, I actually ran into your profile on Google, obviously, because I was looking for information on how to build out my brand SERP. So it all started like this.
Right, you should have just asked me. You could have emailed me directly and asked me,
what's didn't know you back then.
Right. Well, the other thing is I'm actually now releasing a book. I wrote it last year and I'm going to release it now this week. It was supposed to be released just before Christmas. So everybody out there, if you're watching this, well, if you're listening to me, then you must be watching this. So that was a silly comment. The book's coming out in the next week or so, and it's 30,000 words all about brand SERPs and how to optimize your brand SERP for a company. I'll write the one for people next year. Brilliant, wonderful. Let's get on with the topic, which is gap analysis. Now, if I understand correct, very good point. Anton, I forgot the song. Shame on me. A quick hello and we're good to go. Welcome to the show, Lidia Infante.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Yeah, wonderful. I'm sorry, I'm a bit lost. It's 2022 and I've forgotten how everything works. I took 2 weeks off and I've completely lost the plot. Thank you, Anton, for keeping the plot. Lydia, we're going to talk about gap analysis. Now, I immediately wondered, because the description you gave me was very vague. Is it keyword gap analysis? Is it link gap analysis? Is it content gap analysis? Or is it something else like hair? For example, here the gap analysis is very obvious.
It is. I am winning. I'm sorry.
I'm terribly envious of your hair. I would love to have a head of hair like that, but unfortunately mine fell out many years ago. Anyway, what kind of gap analysis are we
Gap
looking at
analysis,
today?
it's everything gap analysis. Something that I like bringing us to the fundamentals of what we're doing very often. And when we're trying to rank our website, what we're trying to do in essence is be better than our competitors. There are 100 something slots, and we want slot number 1, right? In order to be slot number
Right.
1, it's not just about what we do, it's about knowing what all the other people currently filling up those slots are doing, and how we're going to be better than them in the eyes of the search engines that we are optimizing for.
So what you're doing is basically looking at the gap analysis that is necessary for any individual business, and that gap analysis can differ depending on your industry, your business, your geolocation. In fact, every single case is going to have a different situation.
Yeah, it is not a generic business gap analysis, but focus on the channel of SEO. So
Right.
we bring it back to the 3 legs of SEO. We've got content, we've got technical, we've got off-page brand links, whatever you want to call that. And what I like to do is I like to look at these 3 sections separately and kind of understand whether the website that I'm trying to rank is lacking in technical, or is lacking in content, or is lacking in brand work, right? Because it doesn't matter. It's not going to move the needle for me if I'm already the best at technical to keep improving my technical. If I have the best content across all of the SERPs for my vertical, it doesn't make sense for me to keep working on content. Or if I'm the one with the most links, I don't need to keep working on links.
Right.
Probably need to do some maintenance work, but not a full-on campaign all the time.
Brilliant. And that comes back to what Gary Ilias was saying a couple of years ago when he explained how ranking works. And it's the idea of multiplying the factors, or the scores that the factors give across. And he was basically saying any score under 1, because it's multiplied, will absolutely kill the bid that your page or your content will put in. And he was basically saying you need to have an even-legged stool. If we've got these 3 pillars, then the 3 legs need to be the same length. But in fact, it's all the different kind of aspects need to be relative, or as close to being equal as possible. And if you've got 100,000 inbound links, 1 extra inbound link isn't going to make very much difference. That's the idea.
Exactly, kind of.
Kind of, not really.
kind of. It's more of a not about your legs, but about your competitors. So if you're already the best at links in the 100 people that are competing for spot 1 with you, why do you need more links? That's not the thing that's going to move the needle for you. It's going to be content, or it's going to be technical. And what I like to remind people of is that those 3 legs have different roles. The technical leg, the role of the technical leg is to enable search engines to find your content and users to enjoy it, right? So we're talking about core web vitals. We're talking about making a delightful web experience, and we're talking about making it available and crawlable, and not do stupid things with the crawl budget. So then we go on to content, and the role of content is to provide users with an answer. Typically, it's to meet the user search intent, right? So technical's there for a reason, content's there for another reason. And then we move on to off-page. Off-page, we're trying to get brand recognition for you. We're trying to make Google understand the relationship between your brand and your product. We're trying to tell search engines, hey, I am an authoritative source. Look at me. Rank me first.
Right.
But it all comes back to enabling content to shine, because it is the content that's going to rank, enabled by the tech, enabled by the off page. And then once the user is in there, the tag is going to delight them or not.
Brilliant.
So yeah.
Can I just interrupt there and say you've got
Okay.
your three-legged stool, which is content, technical, and off-page. I have a different three-legged stool for SEO, which is understanding credibility and suitability, where I'm saying you need to get Google to understand who you are, what you do, and what you offer, and what each individual piece of content is offering. Then you need to convince it that you are more credible than your competition as a solution for its users. And then you need to make sure that the content is suitable for delivery, either on the SERP or off the SERP if they come through to your site, which is all about the kind of technical aspects of deliverability. And the right kind of content is somebody who's looking for video. You obviously need a video. So what I kind of like there is I've just got a different three-legged stool, and different parts of my three legs fit into the different parts of your three legs, as it were, which sounds a bit strange, but you know what I mean.
No, it makes perfect sense, because the way that you are describing it is about the function that these legs do, right? It's more of the connector that puts the leg into the seat.
Right, I have doing legs, and you have what? Functioning standy legs? What would you call your legs?
I don't know.
Anyway, I've got doing legs, and I'm now very happy that my three-legged SEO stool has dewy legs. Anyway, yes, carry on. So you're looking very much at the competition and saying, I have my three legs to, let's say, equalize, because they need to be more or less the same length. If you have one very short leg, then your stool falls over.
Yeah, exactly. But again, that's not the direction in which I'm going.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm off on yeah. And actually, to tell everybody, Lydia's actually got a list on a piece of paper of the points she wanted to make, and I'm asking the wrong questions. So, Lydia, please take the lead.
I'm gonna bring up the list that I took a picture of with my phone, because once again I'm in Barcelona. So the very first thing that you need to do when you're trying to do a gap analysis against your competitors is identify them. And it is not as easy as it sounds, because most companies are going to have a list of competitors, and that list of competitors comes from sales, comes from customer service, comes from product, and everyone has a different idea. And then we SEOs go onto the SERPs and say, those are not your competitors in search, right? So you need to find a sweet spot between the people that are competing with you for your audience and your clients, and the people that are competing with you for top spots on Google. Create a good mix. Use your best common sense to bring in a good balance of both types of competitors, and start from there. And then you're going to want to look at content. You're going to look at off-page. You're going to look at tech SEO. I'm going to leave tech SEO for last, because honestly, I've not figured out the exact way to make the perfect gap analysis there and measure it perfectly, because every website has its own nuances. So I'm going to leave it for last. I'll sound smart at the very beginning, and then I'll bring my doubts in. And if anyone wants to comment on it and bring their ideas, more than welcome to.
Brilliant. Well, I can imagine that gap analysis in the technical aspects is much more difficult to do. All you can do is say they haven't indexed all their pages, whereas I have. There's a big gap.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
I
that's
have no index all of my pages by accident. So that's the kind of thing that you want to look at. Let's start with tech SEO then. Let's open that, crack that egg open, and do that.
Right.
So when you're trying to do tech SEO, you can look at, for example, core web vitals. So how many of our competitors' URLs are passing, how many are good, how many are need an improvement, and how many are just bad, and make a little bit of a comparison there. You could also be looking at lighthouse scores, like page speed insights. You could put the URLs on your audit tool of choice and use audit scores and health scores. It's a choice. Or you could combine all of those metrics with some manual checks as well, such as, is the robots.txt correctly set up? Do they specify sitemap? Do they have a sitemap for every section of the site? Or are they providing hreflang information in this way or this other way? Or is it just not there? Are there canonicals all over the place? Right, a few manual checks that you can do and combine it all into a score. But you're probably better off looking at how are they doing in terms of web performance optimization, and then how are they doing in terms of making the website accessible for search engines and users, right? So the two areas of tech SEO, enable and delight, look at them separately. I still have not cracked it. I am working on it. And I have been trying different ways of measuring Core Web Vital performance, page speed insights, and health scores. Still on it. Not fully satisfied with my result yet.
Right, yet. I think that's really important. But come the end of 2022, at least, at the latest, you will have that measurement and you will be satisfied, I believe.
I'm hoping it's going to be very well done by the end of February, because I'm going to be
Brilliant.
presenting the entire methodology step by step at the Women in Tech SEO Fest, which I'm really looking forward to.
Oh, right. Where's that going to be? In London?
In London on the 25th of February, COVID allowing, of course.
Right, yeah. Nice plug there. Brilliant, wonderful. Everybody get along to the Women in Tech SEO.
We sold out months ago, but
Oh.
if anyone wants to get on the online version, you're very welcome to. Anyway, I'm going to be putting those templates out once my Women in Tech SEO audience have had the time to try it and enjoy it. And then an easier one is going to be the brand / on off page authority section of your gap analysis. We're going to be looking at number of links, number of referring domains, how many pages are getting links within your site. You can look at DA. It's not a foolproof metric, but it'll do. You can look at link growth. So in the last 6 months, what percentage have you grown? And also, what is the absolute number that you've grown? That way you can see if your competitors are making a big push on digital PR or link building, or if they're just not looking at it very much. And you should be looking also at brand search volume to see if the brands are known, right? Are the brands known? Does that relate to their link building efforts? Do users search for the brand and the product? Take a look at that, right? That is something that I really, really do recommend.
I mean, from a link building perspective, brand is incredibly powerful. The more famous or the more well-known a brand is, but also from Google's perspective, the more a brand is searched for, the more likely it is that that brand is going to be a good solution or answer.
Yes. And actually, Stephen Kenwright from Ryzen 7, he gave a very good talk at Brighton SEO in September. Yes, September, about a case study. It was a previous agency of him. Sorry, I'm not being very eloquent, but he had an experience, a case study that he wanted to show about how when users start searching for the brand alongside with the product, the brand started ranking higher when users only search for the product, which is incredibly interesting. And it's just so insightful about the relationship of brand and search.
But that is incredibly interesting. And I mean, it indicates as well that Google is making the connection, which is what I'm all about, is saying get Google to understand who you are, what you do, what you offer, and who you offer it to. And that necessarily means that if Google can get a grip on your brand and your product and put the two together, then it will potentially rank you better for your product if your brand is more searched. But yeah, I had a client as well. They had adverts on, they sold flowers, or they still sell flowers, and they would have very heavy offline advertising for the week before St. Valentine's Day and then the week before Mother's Day. And what would happen is they were competing with Interflora, and their brand search volume went up during that period that they were having this campaign, and they were second to Interflora. And during that period, they would go first.
Yeah.
And then after that period, they go back down again. That was phenomenally interesting. I'm absolutely convinced that brand search volume drives at least partially Google's ranking algorithm, at least in this particular perspective. So go for brand search volume, get people searching your name.
Exactly. And demand generation campaigns. Just talk to your demand generation people, because you can create beautiful things together. Back at Ryzen 7, we did some work for Misguided, which is another of the case studies that we showed, that Stephen showed during Ryzen SEO. There was a special type of top kind of thing that I cannot wear. And only Misguided had it. They had some extra stock, I believe, of it. They did a campaign with influencers that got people searching for the top that only Misguided had at the time. blah, blah, blah. It ended up ranking really high for that product, whether or not you search for the brand. And that was sustained even when Zara jumped in the game, or all the
Right.
other big fast fashion retailers jumped in the game. And that was really cool.
So from a gap analysis perspective, which is what we're supposed to be talking about, you look at the brand search volume for your competitors, and then you think, well, if they've got double what I've got, I need to start building up these techniques and these strategies to get people searching my brand name.
Yeah, exactly. You can do that with offline advertising. You can do that performing digital campaigns, digital PR-oriented campaigns, TV. There's a million different ways. You can give it a push on social media, or improve your brand awareness by super bidding on PPC, doing something clever on PPC. Which, side note, massive tangent, I think it's time that PPC stops trying to be SEO and ranking for the keywords that the brand should rank in SEO, and start doing creative things with it. Anyway, I'm going to now that all the haters are going to come to my Twitter.
Right.
It
So
is
you're
my honest thought. I started my career in PPC, and I see really cool things being done by the team, some in-house teams and agency teams all the time. I wish we did more of that.
Yeah, I mean, basically, from your perspective, you're saying that they're aiming at the same targets as the SEO, so it's actually not really pointful. You're getting two spots. That doesn't seem to you to be added value. That seems to be a waste of money, and they should be doing something more creative.
Not fully a waste of money, but I also think that brand campaigns on PPC are somewhat of a ransom.
Right.
Okay, can we go out of this hole that I just dig for myself?
Yes, no, keep going with your list. Get your list out. Every time we go off topic and you want to get back to the list, you just hold the list up.
All right, holding the list
Brilliant.
up.
List is held up.
Then the biggest part, the part that takes the bigger chunk of my time when I'm doing this type of gap analysis, is the content gap analysis, because I like to really look at the traffic.
Right.
There's many different ways that you can get this done, but I like to separate the traffic. So I like to look at branded traffic versus unbranded traffic. That is a good overlap between the brand section and the content section. But I also like looking at editorial traffic, brand specific traffic, and product traffic. So what parts of the funnel is this website attracting, right? Are we looking at people who are top of the funnel, starting to get interest on what is the next computer that they want to buy? Or are we looking at specific processors or hardware or brands, or are they looking to buy it, right? So I like dividing that between editorial, which is the type of content that you're going to have on your blog, type of content you're going to have on guides, hubs, press, product, which is the type of content that's going to be on your shop, and then brand, typically the type of content that's going to go on your homepage or on your help pages, FAQs, return policy, all of that.
Brilliant. And just really quickly interrupting there, that whole kind of branded search idea and the FAQ sections, the different terms that you can be aiming at for and strategies. There is a webinar next week on Duda with myself, Dave Davis, Kore Gubur, and Olesia Korebka on Duda next week. So do look that up. Sorry, I was interrupting for a bit of promotion.
Fabulous.
You did your plug earlier on.
Very seamless.
Not seamless at all. Very heavy-handed.
Oh no, it was fine. So yeah, that's a thing that I like to look at, right? So what is their traffic like? What are they aiming for? What are they getting? But also, what is the quality of their content efforts? And because these sites can be massive, you can grab a few different pages for an example and look at them in different ways. But you should be looking at how many of their URLs are attracting traffic, total and percentually. How much traffic per keyword are they getting, total and percentually, and how much traffic per URL they're getting, right? That is going to tell you if they have lots of pages that are trash, if they have an entire section of their website that ranks, but the products don't rank. You're going to get a really good feel for what your competitors are doing, and where you should be aiming to perform.
Can
And
I
that's,
ask a question?
yeah.
Excuse me, about, I have a B2B client, for example, and one of the problems we have is it's so niche that none of these tools have a great deal of data about it. So actually doing any competitor analysis is very difficult because the tools aren't actually tracking the specific keywords and specific sections or within the niche industry. Is there a solution to that? Because I need help.
So it is the keywords that are relevant to your audience are not available on the typical tools.
Yeah.
I would say try different tools, move away from your usual one, and maybe try a competitor.
I know what I'll do is I'll give Ahrefs a try because they've partnered with us for this month of January, and I can get another plug in there, which was as smooth as you like. I will give Ahrefs a try. Thank you very much for the hint.
They're awesome, and I use Ahrefs all the time, but I do complement it with others that I'm not gonna mention because, yeah.
I don't mind. It's like we can mention. I work with SE ranking a lot, who are much smaller, very good.
Yeah,
I've worked
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah. I
SEMrush as
know
well.
them, and I quite like them. I work with SEMrush, obviously. Systrix have a nice database, but Ahrefs have a very good database if you're working in non-English speaking markets. So I really like
Right.
going with them.
Oh, we could have turned this into a summary of what the different tools are great at and platforms are great at. There's also SimilarWeb, who I've been looking at recently because I worked with them a couple of times, and they've got incredible data on branded search because they also have the click-through data, the clickstream
Yeah.
data. And for branded search in particular, brand SERPs and branded searches in particular, they've got vast amounts of data I don't think anybody else has got. So I really have fun digging down into that and looking at the idea of, I mean, the brand search being navigational or informational. And for something like Facebook, it's pure navigation. And that's what Nathan Chalmers from Bring talks about. He says, with Facebook, we know you just want to get to the site. There's no point in us giving you very much more than that. Whereas with Kalicube, much smaller company, people are searching Kalicube to understand more about Kalicube. Sorry, I'm going off on a rant on my own pet topic now.
It's fine. It's fine. Actually, your next guest is going to be talking about intent. So there's another plug for you.
Yeah, no, David Amerland on next week. Another plug. David Amerland is absolutely brilliant, and he's such a smart guy. And he's going to be looking at intent and analyzing how potentially we all misunderstand it, how potentially philosophically we might want to take a step back. And I love his approach because it is philosophically, let's take a big step back and look at what it is we're actually doing, which I love. Whereas today we're doing pragmatically, look at your competitors and steal all their ideas.
Exactly. So back to pragmatism, we're going to go on step 3 of the whole framework. Firstly, we've identified our competitors. You can do that with a top-down or a bottom-up approach. Stay tuned for a blog post on it. Then you're going to perform the gap analysis, and we're going to identify our focus. So we've got our entire thing. We've got our traffic analysis versus competitors. We've got our brand of page analysis in there. We've got our tech SEO analysis in there. And it's time to say, what am I weakest at versus my competitors?
Right.
You might be below on everything. In that case, go for tech because that's the enabler. And then content and then brand. That's usually the good way to build. But if you see yourself weak on any specific aspect, you're going to want to create a roadmap on how. Yeah.
No, it just occurred to me you were being really polite earlier on because I was talking about my even-legged stool, and you were saying, yeah, but that's not really the point. And in fact, it is. If your entire industry has a wonky stool that has one leg that's much shorter than the other, you can have a wonky stool too because it's all relative, and that's basically what gap analysis comes down to. It's all relative,
Exactly.
and you've got to hit this. Oh, keep going. I'm sorry.
Exactly. So if no one has links, right, you can have a few links, and that's you've gained an edge over your competitors with that. If everyone has a ton of links but you have none, you need to do digital PR. If everyone has fantastically super optimized, super fast websites and you don't, go do that. If you are on the average for everything, choose which one's going to be your lever. to gain that pull over your competitors. So yeah, at this point in your gap analysis, we're going to start using it, and we're going to do that by choosing our focus. Be strategic with what your resources are, what your space looks like, and what your capabilities and expertise are, and choose a focus that you're going to go for, and then turn that focus into a plan. You're going to have to create a roadmap with an objective. If my market has everyone has 1,000 links and they're growing their links at X% every 6 months, and I want to meet the market, I'm going to take into account that they grow their links to maybe 1,200 by the end of the year. I want to get to 1,200.
Right.
How many do I have? I have 500. I need 700 links. All of these numbers are made up, obviously.
Right.
What ROI are you expecting from this effort? What are you expecting that'll happen if you reach the same level of links as your competitors? Is this the only short leg of your stool? Then you can expect to sort of match their traffic. Look at that. Kind of infraestimate ROI. Tell your manager in case you need more resources in the future, or tell your finance department, tell your CMO, and get moving. How are you going to get those links? How are you going to get there? Once you do, evaluate. So I'm gonna very quickly look at my list.
Oh, brilliant! Right, okay. Done. I know. I think it's fine. Some people come on the show with lists, which actually really helps me, because when you've got a list, you know where you're going, and I can't actually take you too far off track, although I do try. So off you go.
It's fine. I take myself off track all of the time. Like, what was the point? What need did I have to bring on PPC?
Oh, I don't know. That was very strange. Yes.
Opinions.
Yeah, terrible mistake on your part earlier on.
I know, totally shoot myself on the foot. Yeah.
Right, okay, you shot yourself in the foot, but now you're going to pull the bullet out because you're going to read the rest of your list.
Exactly. We're back to my list. We've created the roadmap. At this point, we've executed the roadmap. We have those 1,200 links that we said we were going to get. We look at the gap again. Have we closed the gap? By how much? Are there any additional benefits that we found? Like, has our brand search grown? Can it be attributed to our efforts? Has our positioning, like our ranking for those keywords that we had in mind, grown as well? And can it be attributed to your efforts? And are you closer to what the average is in your market right now? Are you better known? You can use some qualitative data with YouGov or other providers, and understand what the result of that effort has been. And then you go back, do the gap, choose another focus, build another roadmap. There are different situations you can find yourself in. You can find yourself at the top of the chain. In that case, you're probably already ranking number 1. Go have a chat with your social media people, demand gen, product, you're good. Or maybe you're finding yourself starting in a very competitive market. You can be in very different positions, and you're going to have to be really clever, because the key to success is not performing a perfect gap, is being able to choose the right focus.
Right.
And create the right roadmap.
I mean, but then choosing the right focus is partly what your competitors have that you don't, which is the gap, but also partly what you are capable of doing, what you have the resources to do. And rather than just money, it's the people to do it and the people who have the capacity to do it. For example, link building or PR. If you don't have that kind of person within your organization, what do you do?
Well, you get an agency, typically.
Brilliant. Okay. No, I mean, from my perspective, kind of looking at that, you're saying I really need to fill this PR gap or the link back gap or the technical gap. I mean, I think kind of one thing that most sites actually immediately, or most people have somewhere in their sphere is technical.
Yeah.
Is that me being naive? Or, I mean, everybody thinks SEO technical, so I'll get some technical people on board.
Yeah, well, every organization has developers at this point, I imagine. The problem is getting developer time assigned to your SEO efforts. And a very good way of doing that is if you identify that technical SEO is your gap, you think by bridging that gap, you're going to get X more amount of traffic. You bring it back to money, right? Because the people that you're going to have to be asking resources for are going to bring it back to money. They want to understand why they need to dedicate those development hours to you, the SEO that sits within marketing, instead of dedicating them to product or whatever else the engineering department wants to do. In that case, you bring it back to money. If it's a very straightforward e-commerce side, you can just estimate conversion rate, estimate traffic growth, estimate revenue growth. If you are in SaaS, you can estimate marketing qualified leads to client, MRR, do a lot of math, bring it backwards, and say, I am expecting an ROI of X out of this exercise. And then you're going to likely be able to get that investment from your organization. Because a lot of SEO is, especially when you're in-house, is knowing how to talk to the people that hold your resources.
Right. Oh dear, I didn't know that because I've never been in-house. Can we come back to gap analysis and look at content, because that really intrigues me? Because I mean, technically, you can say, yeah, they've done this, I haven't. They've got a fast site, I don't. For links, you can say they've got X number of backlinks from X domain authority, whatever it might be. And for content, that's much harder to do. You're immediately kind of looking at this kind of fluffy thing, which is all content isn't equal, all content doesn't match necessarily, and content goes from a blog to a YouTube channel to videos that you're pushing out there and the social media. How do you do that?
Well, you can do it in several different ways. You can do a qualitative analysis where you just go and pick up a few blogs, read them, and compare them to what you have. So you can be looking at, are they accessible? Do they have a clear CTA? Do they cover the subject comprehensively? Is it clear to me what search intent they're targeting? Do they include images, author bio, publishing date, modification date? Do they bring in any credentials? Is it clear for the user at the end what they can do next, right? Are they looking to send the user to a product page? Is this a hard sell? Or are they looking to keep nurturing that user through their information buying journey? You can have that moment of looking at all of it separately, and you can also look at it in bulk. I recommend doing both if you have the time for it, especially if there's a specific competitor that you know they're doing it really well, and you can find that in the numbers. So in the numbers, you'd be bringing in branded traffic, which you can do in different ways. So if you're on Ahrefs, you can go. I believe the bulk analysis gives you branded versus unbranded traffic data. Otherwise, you can just go on the site overview, keywords, exclude the brand from the keyword section, and add the estimated traffic in there. And then you're going to get your branded traffic minus the unbranded traffic. Then you get both.
So that's my expression for, wow, you really know your platforms.
I can do it in many platforms. But yeah, I do use Ahrefs a lot for this. And then you can go ahead and do the same by comparing the editorial section. So if all of your competitors' editorial content sits on the blog, you go on the blog, how many keywords do they have? What is their average traffic? What's their best page? If they have more than one subfolder for it, you just add them all up. And there you have your editorial traffic. So you've got editorial traffic, brand traffic. The leftover must be product traffic. Your platform, like all of the platforms, measure it in different ways, and different sections of the platform measure this in different ways. So the numbers are not always going to add up unless you're talking about a very big platform. But you can look at it that way and understand where your competitors are dedicating their efforts. Then you can go on SEMrush and do a similar work for intent, right? You can do something very similar on SEMrush, on Systrix, and bring in the gap analysis by intent. And then you can go and think, are they producing lots and lots of content that's not getting a lot of traffic per page, but they're producing such volume that my numbers are very big? So you're going to want to look at the number of content URLs, editorial URLs, product URLs, brand focused URLs. Basically, you get a big ass spreadsheet going on, some
Right.
conditional formatting to make your life a little bit easier, and that should help you identify your competitor strategies. So,
Brilliant, wonderful. No, so we started with technical, went through backlinks and PR, and ended with content, which basically covers your three-legged stool from beginning to end. That was absolutely delightful. I really didn't know what to expect. That was amazing. Thank you very much, Lydia. We're now going to announce, thank you everyone for watching. We're going to announce next week, which is David Amerland. If we can have that up on the screen, coming next week on Kalicube Tuesday, search of behavior, intent, and expectations. And that all started with a conversation on Twitter. And I can't remember the name of the guy. He's a very famous guy who was getting involved in all this. And David Amerland has such a great viewpoint on this, and a very philosophical viewpoint that I find incredibly interesting. So search of behavior, intent, and expectations next week. And if you could pass the baton, Lydia, that would be delightful.
of course, I am really looking forward to the next session with David. You've mentioned him briefly over our talk. I was already excited for it because I'm very into search intent, and now I just can't wait for it. Looking forward to see that.
Wonderful. So thank you very much, Lydia. You get the outro song, and we'll see everybody else next week for that. And also, we have Bill Slawski and Andrea Volpini from WordLift talking about mum right after the David Amerland episode. So next week, it's a double bill. Thank you very much, Lydia. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Anton, for behind the scenes. And welcome to 2022. A quick goodbye to end the show. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Thanks a lot.